This is Garis, Masculist, MGTOW flyers. That is 2-3 page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 688, entitled Tools for Giving Masculist Talks at Universities. Description. This flyer provides a model abstract for a masculist talk to be given in gender political seminars at universities around the world. It talks about the resistance of the femafia, that's feminist media mafia, to the penetration of masculist and MGTOW ideas in the mainstream media, thus slowing the biconsciousing of society, thus increasing the level of hatred of biconscious masculists towards the awful monoconscious hypocrisy of feminists. If this continues, a masculist mutiny becomes inevitable. The flyer itself. Tools for Giving Masculist Talks at Universities, by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. I attended a feminist talk recently at my local university, that's Melbourne University, entitled Is Feminism Finished? Delivered by two academic feminists who stated near the beginning of their talk that men were growing increasingly frustrated that there is too much attention paid to women's issues and not enough to men's issues, which I found encouraging. In question time, I asked the two of them if there was any consciousness of men's issues, for example, women having the MARA, maternity rejection right, aka abortion right, but men don't have the PARA. So millions of women force men into unwanted paternity, close brackets, or that one father in four gets butchered in the feminist-controlled divorce courts in their respective departments. Answer? Not much. At the end of the talk, I approached one of them and asked if she could help me arrange to give a seminar to her philosophy department on the basic ideas of masculism. Her first question to me was, "Are you a philosopher?" I said no, but that I was a retired full professor in computer science, in AI, artificial brains, and one of the planet's main masculist theorists, that the term masculist was coined by me in the early 70s. She gave me her email and asked me to send her more details about me and what I wanted to talk about. This excited me, since I'm very conscious how a media campaign on a particular topic starts, e.g. usually at universities, then spreads to the students, then to the journalists, who spread the new ideas, the new ideology to the masses via their media stories in their blogs, magazines, TV, radio, etc. So I was hoping that this feminist giving me her email might lead to the above scenario. So I sent her a short bio and an abstract of the talk I proposed to give in the seminar. This abstract can be found at the bottom of this flyer. The following day she emailed back saying "niet," that her department only invited professional philosophers to give seminars. I was very disappointed by this and found it rather contradictory to what she had said the previous evening. She knew I was not a professional philosopher, so why did she give me her email address and invite me to send details of my proposed seminar talk? Also, she and her colleague gave a feminist talk, which is not particularly philosophical in nature, and was something that I could have given just as well along masculist lines, given that I'm a retired full professor with 150 publications to my name and quite capable of giving a good, coherent academic talk. What I suspect happened is that she read the abstract and a short essay I cut and pasted into my email to her entitled A 2,000-Word Introduction to Masculism, whose link is... to get the link, go to my website, have a look at flyer number 688, find the text of the talk and click on the link. And did not like the ideas, so said niet. This kind of thing happens frequently to masculists and MGTOWs who are trying to penetrate what the manosphere calls the femafia, that is, the feminist media mafia, who block masculist ideas from appearing in the media because they don't like them. To masculists, this monoconsciousness of feminists only generates hatred against them due to its profound hypocrisy, given the masculist belief that women oppress men worse than vice versa, with women's awful gender crimes against men that are horrible and last decades. For example, the big three that the masculists keep harping on, namely women's manslavery, women's divorce rape, women's forced fathering. These gender crimes that women commit against men are far more serious than the rather mild ways that men commit gender crimes against women, for example, rape, domestic violence, sexual harassment, patriarchy, misogyny, etc. But nearly all feminists don't know about such masculist ideas because they have not been exposed to them. So we have here a vicious circle, a catch-22, which goes as follows. Monoconscious feminists, via the femafia, block the spread of masculist ideas, which, if widespread, would convert monoconscious feminists into biconscious feminists, which would make them a lot nicer to be with for men. But due to the femafia, monoconscious feminists remain monoconscious due to their ignorance of masculist ideas, so feel fully justified in maintaining the femafia. Since the monoconscious feminists, masculist critique of women is just more misogyny, and hence taboo for feminists, something to be fought against, since feminists are taught by feminist ideas that male misogyny is something evil that should be stamped out. Of course, to biconscious masculists, the above attitude is just sheer hypocrisy, since masculists are very conscious that gender oppression is very much a two-way street, and that in fact women oppress men far worse with their big three of manslavery, divorce, rape and forced fathering. So we have here a log jam that is not going anywhere, so what to do? I think it is unavoidable that sooner or later there will have to be a public rebellion by masculists on campus, confronting monoconscious feminists in a very painful way, with masculists hurling abuse at these monoconscious feminists, haranguing them with verbally violent, ideological, hateful, masculist rhetoric that makes these women painfully conscious of the existence of masculists. Biconscious masculists who spit at them for their monoconscious feminist callousness and ignorance of the masculist case. The masculists can scare the shit out of these women by hitting them where it really hurts, and by that I don't mean punching them in the face, although that would be tempting for many angry, hateful masculists who see monoconscious feminists as hypocritical, genocidal enemies, but rather by telling these women that the masculists have a very effective strategy to force monoconscious feminists to become biconscious feminists, that is, learning some masculist ideas, so that they become familiar with both sets of ideas, feminist and masculist, so that they learn that gender oppression is a two-way street, and that their former monoconsciousness made them appear to be hypocritical bigots to biconscious masculists, to be spat at and ignored by these men. The really scary idea that the masculists can hurl at these monoconscious feminists is that the masculists target the men in these monoconscious feminists' lives. 99.5% of women are heterosexual, so even the most rabid feminazi is still dependent on a man for her sex. Masculists tell these monoconscious feminists that if they don't become biconscious by learning masculine ideas faster than the man in their lives, then once the masculists have taught masculine ideas to these male feminist boyfriends, partners, husbands of these monoconscious feminists, thus converting these men into biconscious masculists, then these men's biconsciousness will cause them to see the monoconsciousness of their feminist girlfriends, partners, wives, as hypocritical bigotry, given the beliefs of these biconscious masculine boyfriends that women oppress men worse than vice versa. then these biconscious masculist boyfriends will become disgusted with their monoconscious feminist girlfriends and dump them. When millions of monoconscious feminists have been dumped in this way, and when they see that their former boyfriends are now having new relationships with biconscious feminists, then that will strongly motivate these women to convert themselves into biconscious feminists, to make themselves nicer for men to be with. Since a biconscious feminist has had her feminazi bitchiness at men, that is her feminist anger at men, for the ways that men oppress women, as taught to her by feminism, which says nothing to her about how women oppress men, cancelled by her female masculinist anger at women for the ways that women oppress men, and in fact worse than vice versa. The constant knockback given to masculists in trying to penetrate the mass media to spread masculist and MGTOW ideas to the masses, the millions, the billions, only motivates biconscious masculists to take a more militant approach to spreading masculist ideas. That is, we are seeing the historical equivalent in the 2020s of what occurred in the later 1800s when the Pankhursts started preaching militant tactics to feminists, because the Pankhursts had lost patience with the calm reasoning approach of the academic feminists, who tried using reasoned arguments why male politicians should give women the vote. Masculists in the 2020s are coming to a similar conclusion, that masculist tactics in causing a much greater level of awareness of masculist ideas in the culture need to be more radical. So, as the number of radicalized masculists increases, they can attack monoconscious feminists on the campuses by haranguing them with hateful masculist rhetoric, scaring these monoconscious feminists with the threat of manlessness if they don't learn masculist ideas and become biconscious before, in capital letters, their currently monoconscious male feminist boyfriends do. If not, then these women will be dumped and forced to live a lonely, manless life, dying slow, miserable deaths. So, to help spread masculist ideas on campus, it will be necessary to give masculist talks on campus. So here is the abstract that I gave to the above feminists that might be used as a model to other potential masculist speakers on campuses around the world to get the masculist ball rolling. Such talks need to be given to educate the professors on campuses to become masculisted, so that they in turn can spread masculist ideas to their students in their thousands per campus. Once many campuses have been masculisted, then in time the media people will become influenced by masculist ideas, who then in turn can spread masculist ideas to the masses, the millions, with their media articles, their reports on masculist ideas in magazines, radio and TV programs, in blogs, etc. Here is that abstract to be used as a model for other masculist speakers on campus. Abstract. This seminar aims to present to you the core ideas of masculism, that is, men's lib. The essential idea of masculism, that it is a rebellion by men against being man-slaves to women, working for women for decades of men's lives. Masculists argue that thanks to men's invention of science-based medicine, the pill, household gadgets, higher education, etc., women now have a life expectancy of 85 years and hence a career window of half a century. So have a powerful moral obligation to FIP up, in brackets, FIP, F-I-P, equals financially independent person, close brackets, and not live off the money and labour of a man. Masculists claim that gender oppression is not a one-way street, as do monoconscious feminists, but rather is very much a two-way street, and that in fact women oppress men worse than vice versa, since many of women's gender crimes against men are horrible and last decades. The big three that the masculists harp on, in brackets, that is the worst three ways that women oppress men, close brackets, are women's manslavery, women's divorce rape, and women's forced fathering. Masculists want the creation of GECs, G-E-Cs, Gender Equality Committees, in the parliaments that consist half of female feminist politicians and half of male masculist politicians, so that the gender issues of both, in capital letters, sexes can be dealt with equally, in capital letters, which is far from being the case today. The masculist half of these GECs will legislate the PARA, that's paternity rejection right, so that men are given the same legal right as women, in brackets, who already have the MARA, aka abortion right, close brackets, to reject an unwanted pregnancy. They will also legislate the OPTAB, O-P-T-A-B, obligatory paternity testing at birth, for all births, to block women's awful gender crime of paternity fraud, which masculists see as a greater gender crime than rape, which typically gets a man a 10-year jail sentence. So masculists want paternity fraudster women to be jailed for 15 years. Masculists see that the fipping of women, the creation of a FIP society, will go a long way towards solving most of men's gender issues. The divorce courts, which currently butcher one father in four, would be based on the financial independence of both divorcing parties. Manslavery would be wiped out. If a woman continues her pregnancy after her man has used the PARA, if she is a FIP, she can afford to raise the kid herself. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. Brackets, click on the Masculist tab for 680 plus Masculist essays and their videos. Google the terms London Real and Hugo de Garis to see videos on masculism at AI will kill 1 billion people, dash. Do we create our exterminators? Question mark. Professor Hugo de Garis, dash London Real. In brackets, see the last half hour of this 2-hour interview for the